I'll make it right again, but it's no use, you said. And my hunger grows and grows. I have to write the meaning of my life, or else everything's in vain. When the glory tries to tempt you, it may seem like what you need. But if glory makes you happy, why are you so broken up? So tell me.
All right. What's up, guys? Happy Wednesday to you. Yes, it is 2 streams in one day, as promised earlier. I don't know how long we're going to go tonight, but my daughter just went down for the evening, so we're going to try and get a little work done on this competition Bawoo. If you're new to the channel, of course, I'm Steven, aka Midnight Hatter. And yeah, today on the live show we were talking about how I discovered a very important thing about this Bawoo, and especially the hand construction. So, I was actually pleasantly surprised by the fact that I will not have to use some third-party hands or 3D printed hands. I'm actually going to be able to leverage the hands that came with the kit in order to make this work. Now, as you guys know, I love playing with LEDs. I love, getting things to light up, putting electronics into my model kits, and so that is what we are going to be doing this evening, at least working on it. Um, Give me just a moment here. Gotta answer a text message from the missus. You know how it is. Happy wife, happy life, or as I like to say, happy waifu, no get the knifeu. Ultronimus, good to see you in chat, buddy. Like I said, I don't know how long we're going to be here tonight, but I do want to at least showcase the discoveries that I made and hopefully, get some progress towards what our ultimate goal is getting some LEDs into this Bawoo. I actually do have my 3D printed Glemmy miniature over on the 3D printer. He's printing out. We're going to have to figure out a way to get some type of ferrous material, but I have some pretty clever ideas that I'm going to share with you guys there, with how we're going to get some ferrous material into the 3D printed figure so that we can magnetize him to the top of the Bawoo. He's got a very cool pose. He's got like this one of these like, fist up and like, casting his hand out as if he's giving a very triumphant speech. I think it's going to look really good with this particular model kit. So let me just go ahead and hop into our table cam view so that I can show you exactly what we're working with here. So one of the first things that I noticed, obviously I was going to use that inverter and we were going to have the EL wire power our beam sabers, but since the model kit does not have room to allow for the inverter to be installed, we're just going to go ahead and use like a standard LED. But what we can do is, what I noticed is that when the LED is positioned just right underneath the beam saber, I don't know if the camera probably doesn't do it justice. And of course it's flickering on and off because I'm sweaty and trying to hold the battery in place. But the beam saber does light up pretty well with just an LED that's positioned in just the right spot. So we are going to do that in order to power our LED beam saber. That said, here's what I was talking about on stream earlier and what we're going to be working on tonight. You see, this particular kit features one of my favorite high grade gimmicks, which is when you have like a beam saber weapon like this, it's got like a little tab on the side there. Similarly, we've got our beam rifle, which has a tab on both sides, and that tab plugs into the hand. Let's see if we can just disassemble the hand real quick. Plugs into the hand right there. And that actually keeps the beam saber in place. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to go ahead and leverage that to our advantage by installing the connectors of our LED right there and then run the wires straight through the ball joint and into the arm. Now, to do so, we're going to need this little guy, our pin vise. We're probably going to want a smaller drill bit, though. Let's see what we can do. Here is my fancy box of bits. I think that this is going to be small enough to accommodate what we're trying to do while still allowing me to thread some wires through there to power the whole thing up. And wherever possible, I am going to try and recycle the wires from these nano LEDs because I find that they are really, really good. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to put a hole right here through the ball joint of the hand, and we're basically just going to run it straight through so that we can wire the LED to the battery pack that's going to be in the torso of the Bawoo. And I'm slightly angling my drill upwards so that we can go from the ball joint of the hand into sort of the back of the hand, because that is where we are going to install two metal plates that are going to serve as the contacts for our magnetized LED beam saber. Now, I don't own one of the Perfect Grade Unleashed Gundams. I do understand that the Perfect Grade Unleashed Granddaddy comes with a light-up beam saber. Ironically, it only... ironically. Here I go sounding like Alanis Morissette. It's not ironic. It's just strange to me that, it comes with three beam sabers, technically. The two that plug into its back, and then it has one powered beam saber that has an LED in it that lights up. I don't know exactly how it works. Suffice to say that it is slightly larger than the other beam saber handles. I don't think that it has a battery in it per se. Maybe it does. I don't know. If there's anyone in chat that wants to inform me how the Perfect Grade Unleashed Granddaddy achieves its light up beam saber effect, please let me know. But I think that this is going to be one of the more unique approaches to having a powered beam saber effect, because the power source is of course going to be in the torso of the mobile suit itself. The battery pack, the switch, everything's going to be in there. What we are doing is essentially running a wire down through the shoulder, down to the forearm, and into the hand. And then we're going to have a pair of If I can actually, I probably have them here handy that I can show off. Um, so these are 1 millimeter magnets, and they will serve not only as a way of keeping the beam saber handle in place. Forgive my super sweaty hands. It is really hot down here, so I'm like sweating my face off. So these little 1 millimeter magnets will not only serve as a way of keeping the beam saber in place in the hand, but we are actually going to connect the wire of the battery pack to these magnets. And when they make contact with the metal inside the hand, that is where the power is going to come from, which powers the light inside the beam saber. This is something that I've done with miniatures before, and I have learned a lot of lessons in that process, doing that. One thing I learned is that these neodymium I'm never going to pronounce it right, but the neodymium magnets, the rare earth metal magnets that even though they conduct electricity, one of the things that you can't do with them is you can't solder them, with a hot soldering iron. So you can't connect a wire to them directly using a soldering iron, because what happens is the extreme heat from the soldering iron actually demagnetizes them. Well, we don't want that, right? So what we are going to do, and I've devised a couple of different methods just in case. So we have this, which is, if you've ever put AA batteries in the back of your remote control, you know what this is, right? This is basically a metal plate that when you have, two batteries inside of it, this is where the negative end goes, the side with the flat end, and then this is where the pointy end, the positive end goes. This is just one of those plates that serves if you have a 2 battery pack. I harvested it out of one of my inverters. So what we're going to do is we're just going to trim this metal down to the shape and size that we need it, because obviously it conducts electricity. So if we just use this as the metal plate that we put inside of the hand, the goal is going to be to have a piece of metal that is small enough to fit inside the hand, but large enough that there's a decent margin of error, so that when the handle is inserted in here, we are going to make solid connection with both the positive and negative terminals of the battery pack. Sound good to you guys? I'm just going to make sure that this is one of my dead LEDs. If it is dead, we are just going to harvest the whole wire. If not, we're going to just harvest like half of it. So it works, but it's not great. So we're going to harvest about half, maybe 3/4 of this wire. And honestly, these nano LEDs that I got on Amazon, I've posted links to them before. Not only do I enjoy the lights that come on them, but the wire that they use is a very fine gauge, but it's a solid core wire. So it's not like one of these, for instance, like, I've got some harvested wire here from like a phone charger, right? And if I were to strip this wire, what you're going to find is that it actually is a braided wire. It's not a solid wire. Let's see if I can cut all the way through this rubber here. Well, I cut up most of the wire. So the advantage of this particular wire is that, yes, it's copper, but if you can tell, it's actually several wires braided together. That's great if it's, just wired up to a plug, but it makes it very difficult to work with when we're going to be soldering things together. If you look at some of these wires that come on these LEDs, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get this to focus in. Yeah, there we go. It is one solid aluminum wire, which makes it very easy to bend, get it in the position that you want. In particular, if we are going to try and thread these wires through, look at just how easily it goes into place here. So that wire is going to fit right in the back of our hand. And once we get our metal plates in there, we can cap this off and no one is going to even know that it's in there. Look at that. And then it's going to connect right into the joint on the mobile suit. It's just going to go right in. No one's going to know it's there because it plugs in right there. Boom. How cool is that? So the question is, how are we going to wire up this metal? And the answer, we have this plate that I found, but then I also, you guys might be familiar with these Hasegawa steel scribing saws that I have advertised on the channel before. And we have used these, to just kind of scribe panel lines in. But one of the things about these nice steel Hasegawa saws, I took a tiny plate off of one and found out that, dig this, guys. Let's see if we can actually get it to light up here. It worked for me earlier, so I'm going to be really embarrassed if it doesn't work right now. I wanted to make sure that they actually conduct electricity, and wouldn't you know it, bow. See, that's a powerful LED right there. So we can use the metal from these Hasegawa saws as the contact points inside the hand, which might actually be easier to work with because, as you can see, they are much thinner, much more pliable. We can actually form them so that they kind of come to a point, and that actually allows it actually allows it so that when there's, when we push it in, it's going to create that tension that holds the beam saber in place. So, but we'll see. We're gonna give it the old college try. So first things first, we definitely want to remove this spring because we don't need that. Sorry, I just nailed the microphone with my hand. But yeah, we definitely don't need the spring on this guy. Oh, my magnets are sticking to the battery here. So we really only need a very, very small piece of metal, two of them technically, to fit. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I'm out of range here. So we need two very, very small pieces of metal to act as our positive and negative terminals here. I'm going to try to use this cutter. Good night to you, Robert. Good to see you in chat. We'll see how well this works. It might create some sharp edges, but y'all know I'm no stranger to sharp edges. There we go. So surprisingly, the sort of steel plate that was inside that battery pack was pretty easy to work with. And so we got these tiny little bits of metal that are going to serve as our contact points inside the hand. And so we want one here. And we're going to try and match the angle of the orientation. We might end up having to trim this plastic back a little bit to make room, but not the end of the world to me. Whoop, lost my... So here we've got our beam saber. We're just going to plug that in here. So yeah, the objective is basically going to be to get these metal plates in on an angle so that they connect there. What's going on, Adam? Eating a blueberry pesto sandwich. That sounds fantastic. It's very interesting flavor combination if I don't say so myself. I was taken aback. My wife made chicken salad this week, and she put sliced almonds in there, which, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking that Chadwick Boseman meme where he's like, "Oh hell no, Karen." No, this was delicious. So yeah, blueberry pesto. I would be morbidly curious to give it a shot. Now I suppose I should also go ahead and drill my holes for the right hand as well. Now, unfortunately, I will not be able to do any of the actual soldering on stream here tonight, just because it's a little late. My daughter's in bed. I don't want to be uh, catching fire. Um, you know, I'm not Katniss Everdeen over here. So, we are going to keep things um, flame proof, flame retardant here on stream this evening. That said, I think after I get this hole drilled, now that we know exactly how these LEDs are going to light up, how we are going to wire them, honestly, I'm surprised that I was able to guess exactly the diameter hole that I needed to drill for these particular wires. Just first guess. Look at me, I'm over here, Batman. Um, that said, I think that we can do something pretty fun here involving Adam, aka Gundam Explain's favorite thing, magnets. Because we are going to have to install some magnets here eventually. If not, you know, for the Glemmy that's on the 3D printer, we are going to have to install some magnets for the beam rifle, which, after playing a little bit of GBO2, I understand that the beam rifle mounts on the rear waist skirt of the Bawoo when not in use. It actually doesn't make sense the way that it mounts. And I'll show you guys what I mean here in just a second. Once we get this drilled through, I think we've got a nice little hole going. If we can do all of this with, minimal damage and minimal visibility to the parts that I am modifying in order to make this kit work, I think that that is going to be the ultimate goal. Because you guys know me, like I really don't like to have exposed wires. I don't like to have, I'm like a magician. I don't like you guys seeing where the magic is happening. I don't like you guys seeing the tricks. Well, I mean, I like you guys seeing the tricks, but that's why I'm showing you how I do it. So, let's pull out a little bit. Here is our full Bawoo. Well, minus the hands, of course, because those are on the table. We also got to go ahead and install the mono eye in the head as well. So that is going to be coming here soon. But what I wanted to show you guys is that the functionality of the beam rifle So in GBO2, like if we're watching the Bawoo from the back end, he's got a beam rifle in the right hand. The way that he stows his beam rifle when not in use is he tucks it behind with the barrel end facing outwards. But what you'll find is like there's no way to do this conveniently where it doesn't get in the way of the wings. So what we're going to have to do is probably try to find a way to put our magnets probably right here in the disc space, and we're going to align it as high up on the waist as we possibly can so that it doesn't get in the way of the wings. And even then, we're going to have to tip the wings slightly upwards in order to make sure that the beam rifle does not come in contact with them. So, that said, let's see if we can't accomplish something similar to that. There's our attacker. And it's worth noting that the way that the Bawoo, this RE100 Bawoo, achieves its supreme mobility is the fact that the cockpit of the Nutter actually comes off here, and that's where the waist rotates. So, just a neat little factoid. GBO2 was wrong. Yeah, in the words of Miyazaki, GBO2 was mistake. It's nothing but trash. But hey, who am I to question those guys? They know what they're doing. And look at this. Here we have a nice fat back skirt. And our goal is going to be to basically just mount this just like that. This might be trickier than I thought. And as promised, we are going to be working with some of these Mighty Mags, not to be confused with Mighty Max, the popular toy series of the 90s, the boy version of Polly Pocket. Anybody else here remember Mighty Max? So we're just going to disassemble the beam rifle here. Oh, jeez. I was literally going to say boy version of Polly Pocket. Yep. Totally compatible, though. Can confirm. As well as Littlest Pet Shop. So, just for the old S's and G's, shits and giggles for those uninitiated, I'm not going to glue this particular magnet in place just yet. I just threw it in there. See, it's a little rattly. We just need to make sure that this is actually going to work before we start doing any destructive modifications. And there we go. It's not the strongest connection, as you can see. So we are going to want to use 2 magnets, I think, to hold it in place, but not bad overall. And if we were to put it back on the Because basically, what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to achieve that like hard point effect that you see in Gundam, right? Like where they're able to stow their weapons. The problem is there's really not a lot of room for a second magnet in there. So what we might actually need to do, and let's see how this comes together. What's interesting is the way that this describes, assembling it in robot mode. And this goes back to the instructions. It actually says, like, don't plug this into the legs. It says plug the cockpit into the torso first. So you lock it in place, you close this up. It's got these little tabs that lock it in place. And then you plug it into the top here. See, but then what we're running into is that it's too high up on the back skirt. It's actually preventing the backpack from sitting in its correct position. So we actually need this to sit much lower. So, yeah. Oh, hey, what's going on, 16A second? 16XA second, sorry, missed a letter. Yes, a metal strip would probably work. But I'm just trying to maximize my magnet intake, trying to up my magnesium. No, that was a terrible joke. So please disregard. No, honestly, I do want to have very deliberate contact points, and I want to have at least two of them. The reason being, I have done this with a high grade Zaku before, where I had, just a single magnet in the bazooka and a single magnet on the backpack, and it works, but the bazooka kind of is flimsy. It like twists and turns. If you're gonna do magnets on a Gunpla kit, my kind of rule of thumb is always have at least two magnets so that you can always control the orientation of the part. So what I'm thinking is, because the connector is here, we're going to have to put one magnet down below the connector, which I think puts it in a very good position. So if we have one magnet down here and we put one magnet in the barrel of the scope, it actually puts us in a very good location. So our first step is going to be to get rid of this little tail that connects the connector. I'm not sure. Um, not sure how else to phrase that. This is one of those kind of structural integrity parts that you probably shouldn't take out, but here I am. I'm going to do it. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up gluing a magnet in here. And then what I might do is actually take one of these Hasegawa saws and I will cut into the back of the plug here. And we're going to insert a magnet in the top of this plate here to connect to the barrel of the, what would you call that? The scope? Anyone, lost my hobby knife here. Anyone think it's weird that we have scopes on the beam rifles of Gundams? Like, sorry. Like, there shouldn't be any targeting devices on the actual rifles, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Also, amen to being broke, sir. I know how that feels. Let's see here. Yes, Anaheim does live by rule of cool. So, and to 16 seconds point, this is that Hasegawa, the steel plate that I harvested. Oh, ironically, I think it actually repels this magnet. Oh, I see what the problem is. I've got a magnet on the backside of it. It's just not strong enough. I think we need the additional attractive force of a magnet to the magnet. And clearly, it's enough to support the weight of the skirt. It is not, however, enough to support the weight of the beam rifle. And that's where we need that second magnet in place. Let me see if I can find my Hasegawa saw. Link to these on my Amazon store. I love these little flexible Hasegawa hobby saws because I don't want to destroy this entire connector because we do need it to connect to the waist. But it would be ideal if I am able to at least fit a magnet. You know, do we put it up there? So let's see. We put a magnet in here. And then, oh, this is one of the most frustrating things about working with magnets is the fact that they stick together. When I was doing my full armor double Zeta Gundam and I was magnetizing the armor plates, the number of times that I superglued magnets together because they would snap together when I didn't want them to was pretty embarrassing. Oh, jeez. Come on, come apart. You are stronger than the magnet. The magnet doesn't own you. Okay. So, if we have our magnet in place here, we probably don't need to install it. Now we do. Because, like, look, I don't know if you guys can see this, but, like, if the magnet is way up here, it's not going to come in contact with anything in the barrel. We actually do need it to be slightly into the connector there. But this actually affords us a very unique opportunity because I'm going to be able to basically carve in a slot to stuff the magnet into, and I don't have to necessarily worry about when I'm gluing it in place whether or not it's going to, you know, slide out because it's going to be like actually wedged in there. So, but yeah, I am actually going to wrap up here in just a moment. I do have to, you know, get back to it, but I wanted to share some progress on this with you guys before I head off to Betty Bye. Just to prove that I'm actually working on it. I'm not, you know, this isn't one of those typical Hatter projects where I say I'm going to do something and then I flake out and never finish. Um, Part of the reason I'm so committed to being in this competition is for the accountability of it, um, actually being involved in my local Gunpla community and not just paying lip service to guys like Zeke New York and the various other, hobby communities that are out there online. Oh, 16x a second. What competition are you going to be entering on July 1st? Because even the one I'm entering isn't necessarily like super competitive. It's literally just like a local hobby town deal. Oh, very good. See, man, I've wanted to host my own Gunpla building competition. I've had this dream of hosting Gunpla Mania and having 3D printed championship belts that are the size of, like 1/12 scale so that they can actually fit on a high grade kit. Um, but it would be hypocritical of me to sit here and um to try and judge people's gunpla when I have never been officially judged. So, again, that's all part of this process for me. Yikes. Yeah, to be honest, I don't even think I would actually judge. I would probably just MC the event. So there we go. We almost have enough space, it seems. Well, again, metal tools with magnets. They do not play nicely with one another. Or perhaps it's that they play too nicely. Now, since I am doing so much sort of structural and integral damage to this mount, I may end up putting some putty just in here on the sides to kind of reinforce this because I am worried that by causing this much damage to the top and bottom of the connector that I will make it so that it's not as secure when it is connected to the actual Bawoo. But all in good time. We still have plenty of time on this competition. It is not until July 13th. So I have, you know, a little over 2 weeks to get this thing where I want it to be. And I'm not doing anything crazy as far as painting. I've already determined that on account of the fact that it's hard for me to gauge when humidity is going to be favorable for painting, I want to do everything that I can that is not painting. And it's not like I have a spray booth or anything that I can use, so I am a beholden to the weather. Let's see how this fits in now. So we are slowly creating enough space. And as you can see, let's see if you can actually see this if I get the camera in close enough. So you see this hole that we are slowly boring in the top of the connector here. I'm trying to point it out with my hobby knife. That is what we're trying to expand, basically. We're trying to expand that little hole while we don't damage the walls of the connector. We just want to create the space for the magnet to slide in, right in behind it. But I think that this is going to work. And then we have the other magnet is going to sit down here below the connector. And yeah, I think that's going to be it right there. Now, unfortunately, because I am going to have to put some kind of ferrous material here in the barrel, the likelihood that I'm going to be able to install an LED in the beam rifle is going to be much less likely. I think we're only going to be putting LEDs in the beam sabers. But honestly, again, this is going to be so much easier than I thought, because basically I'm just going to take this little guy right here, and look, it fits right in there. And then you can just take it and you just clip it on. Oh, crud. Let's try that again. So we take this guy, we're gonna put it right in there, right? We're gonna just clip it on right there, like that. Okay. And then it basically turns into a little flashlight. Look at that. Ah, crazy. So I am excited for how well the beam sabers are going to work. We're not going to be using any of these. We're not going to do any GPO3 stuff. That's for something else. Spoilers ahead. But yeah, that is all I've got for this evening. Like I said, just a short stream to let you guys know where I am at with this beautiful Bawoo. Hopefully you guys are digging the process so far, and we're going to try and do some more of these little live streams along the way to cover the process of how we are going to make this whole thing work. Until then, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this evening. And remember, we've got the Gundam Explained show tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah. Tune in. It's going to be a fun show, honestly. I think we're going to get into some pretty heavy drama, so I'm excited about it. But yeah, thank you guys for the tips. Thank you for hanging out, and I will catch y'all next time. Cheers.